My name is Adrienne Ackerley, and I'm your host today. To help us avoid any unnecessary background noise, may I ask, if you have not already done so, please enter your audio pin, which you will find on the right side of your screen. You simply press the pound sign, then the number listed, and then the pound sign again directly into your phone, or you can simply hit the mute button on your own phone. Welcome to our Energy Engine webinar, the end of will call and COD. This webinar is geared to take approximately 45 minutes, as we know that your time is valuable. Once we have completed, we will open it up to a short Q&A section, so please hold your questions until then, or you can simply type them in on the right side of your screen and we will address them after the presentation. If you notice on the right side of your screen in your GoToMeeting box, about 3/4 of the way down, there's a small box marked chat. Simply type your question in there and we will address them at the end. And John and I will be more than happy to stay on as long as necessary. John Brable and Mark Stillman are the co-founders of Energy Edge, a management services firm which provides a broad range of services to both energy marketers as well as the companies that provide their products and services to the industry. They are both students of the energy industry who continually study the changing dynamics of this exciting marketplace to help position their clients for the future. Both John and Mark have broad energy industry backgrounds as well as professional expertise in areas such as finance, business and product development, strategic planning, turnaround work for at-risk organizations, business funding and recapitalization, and executive management. In 2011, at the encouragement of several heating oil dealers, a separate standalone software business was launched. Today, the Energy Engine offers a proprietary turnkey e-commerce and behavioral marketing solution geared towards the heating oil and propane dealer community. Through these webinars, John and Mark hope to share some of the changes and challenges they see for our industry, stimulate a meaningful dialogue concerning these changes, and sometimes even challenge the conventional thinking of the industry. Presenting today's webinar is John Brable. John?
Hey, good morning, everyone, and thanks, Adrienne, for that introduction and the background on Energy Edge and our Energy Engine e-commerce business system and everything else that we do. It's an interesting time to be in the energy industry. Certainly changing times and challenging times in a lot of respects, but we're certainly delighted to be part of it. I'm going to do something a little bit different this morning. We have a small group with us that requested registrations for this morning's group because we didn't send out a general webinar invitation as we obviously do. So it was select groups of companies that had opted in through one of our other communications or just went online and opted into the webinar. So we have a small group, so I encourage you to kind of sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee if you don't already have one in front of you, and we're going to have a pretty fast-paced 45 minutes and maybe challenge some thinking, share a lot of numbers with you. So if you have a pad of paper handy, you may want to have that as well. The other thing that I'm going to do a little bit differently is I'm going to combine two different presentations. The one that you see up on the screen, the end of will call and COD and the emergence of on-demand. And you can see that this webinar was originally presented and put together by my partners, both Adrienne as well as Mark Stillman, and presented originally several months ago. And then I'm going to combine it with another webinar that we do, which is on benchmarking, for online fuel sales, which I think you'll find interesting. So that has quite a few numbers in it. So again, that paper and pencil might come in handy. The other thing that I'd like to encourage you to do is in your GoToMeeting panel, it's typically on the right side of your screen, there's a chat box in that panel that is great for asking questions. You just go where it says type your message here, and Adrienne will get those questions. Do it as you think about them. We'll certainly tackle those questions at the end of today's webinar, and we'll stay on the phone as long as you would like us to. We're here for you. So with that, let's go ahead and kick off the end of will call and COD. All right, I'm going to get set up here with my highlighter too because I might need that. So some facts about our industry, because it really is a changing industry. There are about 111 U.S. homes that are centrally heated, and only about 8 million of them use heating oil. So those of us that are involved with the heating oil business, obviously we recognize that it's a very geographically concentrated business as well, with about 6.3 million of those 8 million living right here in the Northeast U.S., the Mid-Atlantic, New England area. There's about 4.5 billion gallons of heating oil sold annually, but just 10 years ago that was 6 billion gallons. So we are in a declining market. There's no doubt about that. Now some of us, and certainly virtually all of our clients, experienced volume increases this past season due to increased temperatures. But certainly as a consistent trend, we've seen notable volume decreases. Matter of fact, if you go back over 20 years, the decline in heating oil volume is pretty dramatic. Only 1% of newly constructed homes use heating oil, so we're not getting the new construction market as we know. And market share for heating oil reduced by 2.5% in 2012 alone. So, and one of the things that we're seeing happen, particularly here in the Northeast with the decline in heating oil, we're seeing more and more heating oil companies also get involved in propane. And of course, we've got the large propane players also that are involved in the market. But one of the things that many people don't realize is that propane volume is also down as well. In about the 10-year period, it's actually declined from about 12 billion to 7 billion gallons, of propane usage. So interesting, the decline in propane isn't nearly as dramatic as it is in heating oil. You also have the alternate uses for propane. So there's some nuances in that particular market. But fast forward and think about this for a second. Especially here in the Northeast, we have more companies now deciding to deliver propane. Typically, more of the heating oil companies adding propane to their product portfolio. And we have declining gallons, so increased competition, declining gallons. It's looking to us like propane, project ourselves 10 years, 20 years down the road, is looking a lot like heating oil looks today. One of the interesting things about propane is margins have actually doubled in that same time period, over that 10-year period. So you have a high margin product. However, propane is now becoming so pricing-wise, it's become less competitive than it ever has. At the same time, you have more competition. So what's likely to happen, and we're seeing that already, is downward pressure in terms of margins. We have propane operators entering the business with slightly different business models and so forth. So and you have consumer-owned or customer-owned tanks on the increase as well, as more and more customers own their own tanks and actually opt to buy their propane a lot like they bought heating oil historically. So a lot of similarities and some interesting interdynamics between heating oil and propane markets. So, it can drive us all crazy. And there are probably some of you that may be sitting on this call and saying, oh my gosh, what in the world am I doing? How am I going to deal with this? What does my future hold? Well, there is good news, okay? And we're not here today to say that the sky is falling, not by any means. There are a lot of great things about our industry. One of the things, and this is Mark's term, he describes us as the last milkman. People that provide, companies that provide personal service right to a customer's home. Generally built upon intimate consumer relationships, particularly if you're operating a full-service company and you've had those customers for a good number of years, and you're operating a very localized business, with a strong brand story, a reputation that you have in your particular town, your particular delivery area that might expand 25 or 30 miles in each delivery in each area, or maybe you're a larger company with multiple locations, but still working against a strong brand. Certainly that heritage has resonated with consumers, and they still like that very much about the industry. And at the same time, utilities, if they think about utilities, large electric or natural gas utilities, they don't trust them certainly as much as they trust the companies that are typically in the heating oil and the propane business. But times are changing, and the way that consumers want to do business is also changing. So one of the the age-old debates that that has occurred in the industry is, do I want to be a company that services automatic full-service customers, or do I want to be a company that that provides will call or COD service? And certainly, it's been a debate that continues to go on, today. What's changed in terms of kind of that dynamic is we've seen customers move off of automatic delivery. We've seen the numbers of people that have opted for full service decline. And at the same time, the increase in gallons now attributable to customers that buy on what's historically been called a will call or a COD basis. Part of that is due to, in a large way, to consumer behavior, and we'll talk about the Amazon effect just a little bit later. But the reality is that many full-service companies that continue to be full-service today are trying to figure out how to, in fact, participate in that other 50% of the market. Many of them already have. They've been doing it in a number of different ways. Some of them are still trying to figure it out. The point is that there's a huge volume and actually increasing volume on the will call and COD side, or as we refer to it, on demand, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Well, why is the change occurring? This is actually research that Mark has shared with audiences for the last number of years. Those of you that know Mark know that he spent a fair number of years with Hedge Solutions as their Chief Operating Officer, and this was research data that was done, research that was done by Hedge, and Mark shares this with permission by Hedge, and it has been shared by Hedge themselves as well. But very informative in terms of how the consumer is thinking. One of the questions was, do you or would you consider buying from a COD discounter, is the way that it was phrased. And greater than 60% of the respondents said, yep, I would, sure. You had another percentage that said probably, and a very small percentage said no. So an indication that times are changing. Yep, I'd look at that. Would you buy fuel online if you could? Well, greater than 65% of the people said, yep, I would. Less than 20% said no. And then finally, describe how you use the internet in terms of heating oil and propane. And this, again, this research was done a number of years ago, but we had 40% of people that said, hey, I go online to check prices. 40% said I go online to research dealers and the products and services that they offer. And about 20% of them said, I go online to order my fuel. And that's almost entirely heating oil, and still almost entirely heating oil. Very little online purchases being done with propane, although that's beginning to change as well. So that's some data from the marketplace, reliable data from the types of consumers that you're serving. Of course, the internet has also changed so many things about our life, not just in our fuel business or in the energy space, but we're involved in this new age of consumerism, where e-commerce has really turned things on its head. Some people would argue we have diminished loyalty across many brands, although I would argue that it doesn't have to be that way if you use the technology smartly, and you'll see a little bit of that a little bit later. Consumers are more value obsessed, and we'll talk about kind of how they search online for things like heating oil and propane. Importantly, is transparency has become vital, and the internet has really changed that. People can go online and find just about anything that they want about anything that they want to find out about. Certainly that goes to pricing, and that's been a big shift for our industry as consumers now are more able to go online and find competitive prices for fuels in their particular market. And a matter of fact, if they're pretty savvy in terms of doing internet searches, they can find the price of fuel that the price for the fuel that you're purchasing at the rack today, and know exactly the margin that you're working at. So transparency has really changed. So at the same time, it requires from us a different way to market to that consumer, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Rather than waiting for that consumer to come to you, you can in fact go to the consumer based upon actions that the consumer engages with. So it's kind of almost invitation marketing. You can market to a select group of people that have interacted with you. And that's one of the things that's made possible by, things like online marketing and, and have been incorporated into systems like our Energy Engine system. And one of the other things about, about the internet that has changed, Mark uses the term that consumers have their BS radar up. They can tell pretty quickly, somebody that's telling them a story. The days of a consumer calling up and saying, hey, I'm interested in, your products and services, and the customer service person saying on the other, end of the phone, well, I can't tell you what our price is, but I can have a salesman come out to your home and, spend some time with you. And, and that immediately sends up, the BS radar, that there's something there that I don't want to engage in that, typically for most consumers, and so forth. So a whole host of things that the internet has in fact changed. So that brings us to a new industry term that is important for you to learn quickly, and it's really on demand is really the new will call. So if you think about it, as more and more consumers go online to buy their fuel, 20% a few years ago, it's now more than that, and it's growing very quickly, as you'll see in the benchmarking numbers when we switch over to that. On demand is really the new will call, because consumers that are going online, they're not calling anyone, so there's no will call going on. There's no cash on delivery, no COD going on, because they're not paying by cash. They're paying by credit card or debit card, which of course has advantages for you. So what it's doing is it's really changing the entire dynamics for the industry in terms of how to deal with this new on-demand customer. And certainly from a full-service marketer's perspective, and many of the folks that have been in the industry their entire career, that COD or will call customer historically has been a second-class citizen. That's no longer the case today. They are becoming they're actually the mainstream consumer going online to shop, and the advantage of using technology by you as far as offering fuel online gives you the opportunity to service that customer at a lower cost, improved margins, and very easily and very conveniently. So the dynamics are shifting on both sides. The consumer is looking for certain things, but at the same time, technology is enabling the industry to provide those types of things the consumer is looking for in a much better fashion than they've historically been able to do in the past. So good news on both sides, really. So what it does means that we need to adjust. Okay, we need to reduce our costs for on-demand customers. Okay, and online actually helps that. It's efficient. It's much more efficient. Matter of fact, we have data that has accrued from our experience over the years. Since we've been involved in online fuel sales back since 2000, so about 14 years now, as well as ongoing information that we pick up from our clients that are on the Energy Engine that says, hey, the net is that the cost of fulfilling an online order is about 10 cents a gallon less than fulfilling a traditional phone order. So there's a cost savings there, and we share that data very specifically with companies that we work with. I'd be glad to talk with you more about that if that's a question that you have. Certainly other benefits, less phone time, there's no AR, and a multitude of other benefits as well. The Amazon effect, as I refer to it, has automated the shopping habits of consumers, so that can in fact be a benefit to you. Customers self-serving, customers buying from you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. customers that conveniently go online and place their order after they get home from work in the evening and realize that, they need a delivery or they're doing it on the weekends. It's very, very real in, in online fuel sales. And you also capture those transient on-demand customers that want to do it at a low cost because, with these savings, the online pricing is typically a couple of cents less than it is for phone pricing. And there's an entire science around pricing and something else that we spend time with our clients on. But the point is that you can use technology smartly to be able to service this new consumer and the way that they want to buy from you. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift off this presentation, and I'm now going to go over to this one. And I'm going to pick up with benchmarking, and you can see one of our crazy folks there. They're pulling their hair out, trying to figure out, how our industry needs to change and change quickly to this emerging energy world. So some information in terms of how consumers are behaving and what are they doing. Full 83% of people do research online before they make a purchase. So we know, and we know from the hedge research that we saw, that people are going online and they're looking for information on the products and services that you're selling to them today. What's important about the next change that is beginning to occur in the industry and is picking up momentum is now you have fully 80% of those people that are not only searching online, but they're now buying online. Again, if you see the bottom here, it really is the Amazon effect. It's going on, and it's going to continue to go on. What are the drivers of internet purchases? Why are folks doing it? In one word, and they've been telling us this for better than a decade now, it's really all about convenience, okay? And I know some of you are thinking, well, they're going online to save money. And I can tell you that we had customers when Adrian and I were involved, ourselves in terms of running what became a very large online business. We hear consumers say to us on a regular basis, hey, I came to you because your price was attractive. It wasn't always the best price, never has to be the best price, part of that science of pricing sort of thing. But I came to you because you had a good price, but I stay with you because of the convenience. And that convenience translates for people in a number of different ways. In some cases, it saves them time. The reality is that people would prefer to do something online rather than pick up the phone and talk with someone. They can do it also when they want to do it, when it's most convenient for them, not necessarily between, and I called the company the other day, and I actually wound up getting their message, about their office hours being from 9 until 4. Well, today's consumer shops 24 hours a day. And 9 to 4 is very limiting for them. So convenience as far as online saves them time. There's also no travel. That's less important in terms of fuel sales, although we still do have consumers that occasionally walk into your offices. But certainly consumers value online sales or online ability to buy because they don't have to get in the car, they don't have to drive someplace, they don't have to go through that inconvenience. They're getting price and fulfillment transparency. They can see everything online. They can understand what it is that they're buying, what type of service level they're getting with it. Maybe they're grouping together, a purchase of fuel along with some sort of service, or maybe they're getting an additive added when it's delivered. They've got full pricing transparency, full product transparency, and they love that. They're also typically online getting a better selection. Now, if you're selling, number 2 heating oil, it's really a commodity. So what's the difference? Well, we've got clients that are, are selling heating oil, and maybe it's a low sulfur, an ultra low sulfur product today, but maybe it's also an option that has a bioblend, as part of it, or maybe it has some sort of other mixture. We're seeing more and more kind of customized fuels. But that better selection, the better selection also part of that is the consumer just feels that, they have choices online. They can opt to buy from you, or they can go to somebody else to make that purchase. and certainly those companies that are offering online sales today do have a competitive advantage. And the consumer is also getting increased value. And that increased value translates into a number of different things. They may get a slightly better price, or at least they feel that they're getting a competitive price because of pricing transparency, which is good. But they're also seeing a value in the interactivity. You know, it's the way that they interact with the internet, or with you via the internet, because the internet is quite honestly simply the communications channel between the customer and you. So if you think about the Amazon effect, and you know, most of you have probably made purchases on Amazon. Certainly I have, you know, many times. And you know, you place the purchase, you have all the information there, you say, yep, buy now. You get a confirmation of that on screen, then I get a confirmation of that order in my email. Then they go to ship it, and I get a you know, a shipping confirmation. And then you know, I get the delivery, and I get a delivery confirmation. Those same types of interactions are valued by the consumer, and those are the same types of interactions that they see with an online fuel application that's built for this industry. You know, they know exactly what they bought, how much it costs, when it's going to be delivered. They know that when it is delivered, they know how many gallons were delivered, which is the same number they get in an email that's part of the delivery ticket that's left at the door. And then they get the entire reconciliation of costs. So they have more detail than they ever had before. That becomes a value for them. And the last thing, and we don't call it out in this particular presentation, but the internet has the ability for you to develop a stronger relationship with that on-demand customer, or an automatic customer for that matter, but certainly that on-demand customer, a greater relationship than you have ever been able to do it by the phone. And that seems somewhat counterintuitive, because the internet's kind of built around this notion of being anonymous, but it's actually quite the opposite. And that was a surprise to us. And Adrienne, you know, who one of her roles years back was actually one of her roles was running the entire customer service group, and she saw the relationships personally that we were able to develop with customers based upon communications to them, electronic communications, things like I just described, things like behavioral marketing that's now being built into software platforms, where depending upon what that consumer does on your website, the website triggers something that happens for them. Or just sharing using e-newsletters, and e-newsletters are not like the old paper newsletters that, you know, used to be 4 pages in length, printed, had articles written by several people, maybe around your office, or by a firm that you hired, you know, and took you 2 months to put together and a lot of money to mail. Today's e-newsletters are very short, very timely. You can decide this morning that there is something that you want to share with your customers. Adrienne sent me something just yesterday, I believe, with some longer-term forecasts for this coming winter, and she made the point, hey, this would be great for our clients to share with, you know, with some of their customers, and a video that was attached to it. You can make decisions like that and share information with your customers, have it out to them in a matter of hours, and at virtually no cost. So times have changed, and those types of things build strong relationships that make even on-demand customers very loyal for you. It's the Amazon effect. All right, so moving on. Here's the key point here. Online sales are increasing faster than offline sales. Okay, that's where the growth is. These particular charts, and I'm not going to go through all of this, is based upon retail sales overall in the U.S. Kind of the key thing to look at is this particular circle over here, where this is growth over and projected growth also over about 5 years. If we look back 10 years before, if we started back about 2000, we'd see these same double-digit increases in online e-commerce sales every year, and it's you know, it's projected to continue. At the same time, and most recently, in fact, Walmart, you know, largest retailer in the country, has had multiple quarters of declining sales in their stores. And at the same time, Walmart.com sales have increased significantly, so much that Walmart has just recently announced the investing billions of dollars in upgrading their online capability to better match the needs and the interactivity and the behavioral relationships that they develop with their customers online. Because certainly, if you can't sell it in the store and you can't sell it online, go where the customer is. The same thing applies to fuel. So let's turn our attention specifically to our industry, to heating oil and propane itself. And what we start with this slide is we start to share some benchmarking numbers. These are actually numbers that come from our Energy Engine clients that they utilize the Energy Engine business system. These are numbers from this past heating season. This past heating season. So 2013, 2014. And you'll see these, if you watch for these boxes on the slides, these are benchmarking numbers that come right out of that, right out of our client database. We share these with our clients initially in a much larger format after we conclude the heating season, and then we share kind of top line data with non-clients as well, as we're doing this morning. So the point here is that this is about web traffic. These are folks that are coming to websites that are interested in buying online. One of the key metrics that we watch and our clients watch, matter of fact, it sits on their dashboard every day that they go in, to the Energy Engine, is how many visitors have been to that website in the last 30 days, and how many of those are unique visitors. Well, not only are more people coming, but it's a lot more people that are coming. In the last heating season, visitors increased by 182% compared to the prior heating season, and unique visitors was up by 136%. So you're better than doubling the number of people that are coming to the website looking. Again, to our previous topic, you have more customers going online specifically for fuel. Conversion rates, and this is something that we're just starting to do, because we know that we know how many people we have going. Our client knows how many people they have going to their website, and that's good. I mean, you have to, as we tell clients, it all starts with the traffic. But once that traffic gets there, how many of them become customers? And so we started, as our client base for the engine has grown larger, we started to track conversion rates. Now, this information is very preliminary. This is the first year that we've done that, but this will get smarter, as we get more and more data into the database and more seasons and so forth. But we're starting to get a picture that essentially says, of the customers that come in, you're really getting a conversion rate of about 5%. So if you have 100 customers that visit, sessions are the same thing as visitors. Google now calls them sessions, but sessions are visitors to registrations, people that then sign up for the service, are about 5%. So about 5 out of every 100 people appears to be what we're seeing. Again, they're new. It's not meant to be, and we've cautioned our clients on this, it's not meant to be absolute, but maybe helpful in terms of understanding what you can expect in terms of conversions. And we'll know more and more about that. To get a visitor to your website doesn't cost all that much money. To get lots of visitors to your website doesn't cost all that much money either. But once you get them there, of course, you want to convert them, and there's certain techniques that need to be used to be able to do that. Growth, and this is volume growth. They're measured in gallons, by our clients. Huge, strong growth continues. This past heating season, gallons were up an amazing 333%. I say that because the prior year they were up 274%, and there was no way we were predicting that rate of growth was going to continue. Well, it not only continued, but it increased. And this is This is actually same-store growth. So what this means is this is the group of our clients who were selling fuel online this past heating season and also sold fuel online at least the prior season. So it's same-store growth, looking at the same companies and saying year after year or year over year, how has their volume increased. So the volume growth is very, very strong. If you think back to my Walmart story, it's the same thing going on in fuels that Walmart is seeing very dramatically themselves. If you remember the movie Field of Dreams, or if you saw that in Kevin Costner and the one of the comments that came out of that movie, you know, if we build it, they will come, or words to that effect. That's not quite right, but it's pretty close. You know, sometimes we have clients that believe the same thing about websites, that and even transactional websites or websites that enable consumers to buy fuel, that if they build it, somehow the consumers will come. That's partially true. There will be some consumers that will kind of trip over it, find it, and so forth. But the reality is that online is really not much different than if you were setting up a store in your town, or you were opening a new location in another market. If you were expanding your business, you know, you need to hang out a sign, let people know that you're in business, you know, maybe do some other advertising and marketing to be able to let people know and invite them to come and kind of check you out. The same thing is absolutely true with online. What these metrics do is it shows the impact, where what we've done is we've separated our clients into kind of two different groups. Those that have followed our marketing guidelines, our marketing roadmap as we refer to it, and those that have opted not to do that. And the results are pretty dramatic. If they're following the marketing roadmap or doing at least some of the things on the marketing roadmap, and you know, so we're pretty generous in terms of defining you know, some of our clients in the marketing group. It doesn't take all that much. We're talking about modest marketing here, but the impact's dramatic. You get 4.4 times the traffic, 7.2 times the registrations, and almost 25 times the gallons as those companies that have not opted to do the marketing, or at least some of the marketing that we recommended to be done. So having you know, doing some of the digital things, and the good news about marketing online is it's much, much, much more affordable and measurable than you know, advertising that the industry has typically done in, you know, things like newspapers or radio or direct mail. So you know, good news there, and you know, and certainly kudos to our clients that do at least a little bit of marketing, because they're getting the returns without any doubt. Can you acquire new customers with online? I'll give you the fast-forward answer. It's an absolute enthusiastic yes, you can. I put at the top of this slide a quote, and it's probably the most dramatic example that I've received, that actually came from one of our clients earlier this summer. He was actually looking at a couple of acquisitions to expand his delivery territory, and looked pretty seriously at them. He called me up one day, and he just said, John, he said, I decided not to do the acquisition because I realized that I could go into that market area and I could capture customers cheaper by expanding my online business into that territory and acquiring those new customers online rather than going out and buying them from a company that had those customers for sale. That, quite honestly, as long as I've been doing online marketing, blew me away, because it was really a strong testament. Now he's been selling online himself for probably about 3 years, maybe going on 4 years now. Not quite 4 years, can't be, but 3 years or a little bit more than 3 years. And he also saw the impact of online marketing prior to that, through some other companies that he worked with. So he's become not only a believer, but has been using it very strategically in his business. So that alone answers the question, can you acquire new customers? He's seen it himself, and he's now using that strategy to actually expand into other areas, investing in online marketing to be able to acquire new customers rather than going and buying them, from another company that's exiting the business. Give you an idea, and here's some of the other benchmarking numbers, and we share these with our new clients coming on, just what can you expect, in the first year that you're in business, in terms of new customers coming to the business. On average, it's somewhere around 500 customers, in year one. By the end of year two or year three, you're up to 1,000 or more. Again, the key point there being that at least some marketing is critical to being able to make that happen. And again, these are averages. We have clients that are multiple thousands of customers ahead of where they were, when they started online marketing. So it's a cause and effect thing, but online can be extremely effective in acquiring new customers and doing it at a much lower cost of customer acquisition than has been traditional in the industry. What type of marketing works? And I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because we only have a few minutes left, on this particular webinar, but I'd be glad to entertain any questions that you might have. And, and certainly this is information that we provide to any of our clients very specifically in a roadmap. But it's really mostly online techniques. It's online marketing, things like search engine optimization, search engine marketing, or some people would know it as pay-per-click. Social media is becoming huge, but few companies are using it. But those that are seeing a very, very huge payback. E-newsletters, we believe, are essential to our clients, and like I mentioned before, they're very easy to do. What about offline marketing? Less and less of that, quite honestly, every month. Newspapers, when we first launched the Energy Engine a number of years ago, our newspapers were on what we call our Vital Six. In other words, one of the marketing tactics that we would recommend that you use. It fell off about 2 years ago because in more and more markets, it was just not being effective. And now it's the exception where there still are markets where newsletters work, and as I've talked with clients that are still using some newsletters, or newspapers, I keep saying newsletters, newspaper advertising, they've reduced the number of papers they're using as they figured out which ones are still providing some benefit to them. But fewer and fewer positive results are being seen in newspapers. Yellow pages, not anymore, folks. And one of the things we talk to our clients about, when they first go online, is in virtually all cases, we're not talking when we're talking about online and talking with them about a marketing roadmap. We're not talking about spending any extra money in the business. We're talking about just shifting, some of the money that you've been spending in other areas toward online marketing to drive traffic to your website or websites. And oftentimes Yellow Pages is still something. Display ads are still being bought by way too many companies because they are no longer effective. At our house, and you're probably the same thing periodically during the course of the year, depending upon the market that you're in. It's usually about 2 publishers of Yellow Pages will drop a updated directory in your driveway, and those things no longer make it into the house here. They go right to the recycling bin without ever going into the front door, because quite honestly, we never use it for a telephone number. We go directly online, either on our mobile device, iPhone, or if we've got an iPad in front of us. So Yellow Pages not nearly as effective as it had been historically. Still some direct mail, but it's very, very selective direct mail and very targeted direct mail. So just some high points in terms of marketing. There's a lot more there. Certainly we can talk, with you about if that's of interest. The other question that we get a lot is what's the marketing spend? Matter of fact, we get this from our clients too. What are other clients spending in terms of in terms of marketing? And the answer is really, it's not so much a budget level. It's more about consistency, and doing it on a regular, ongoing basis. The old thinking that, hey, we sell fuel from October to March, so what we do is we market at the front of the season. Maybe we start in September and October and November and December, and by the time we get to January, we're running so hard that we can't handle the calls that are coming in or the orders that are coming in. We're operating at capacity, so we're not going to advertise anymore during January, February, and March. And that thinking is much different, with online. And matter of fact, one of the nice things about it, if you have the right online presence today, here we are in August, the temperature where I'm at today is going to be right about 80 degrees, not burning a lot of heating oil. But the fact of the matter is there are consumers out there that are buying heating oil, just fewer of them that are buying it today than are buying it during the winter, of course. However, if you have the right online presence, you have it set up properly, those consumers are going to find you ahead of your competition today or during the winter, and that's what you want to accomplish. So consistency is part of that. Money, less so, quite honestly. We have a lot of clients that are in that marketing group that are spending as little as $300 a month. Most of our clients in that marketing group spend less than $1,000 a month, so it's modest spending. I only know one of our clients, maybe two of our clients, that spend greater than $2,000 a month. They're much more aggressive, and in their cases, they've said it continues to work. We found some things that work for us. We keep spending because it's not a cost for us. It's an investment, and our history has been and continues to be, if we spend the money smartly, we're getting a positive return. We're spending $1 on marketing, and we're getting $2 or $3 back in business, sort of thing. So it's really a small marketing. The important thing here is we've got about 14 years worth of experience in terms of what works and what doesn't. And if our clients follow that roadmap, they're spending money, where it makes a difference, and that's getting them the return. One of the comments that I'll make here, without spending much more time on here, is one of the other big differences with doing online marketing is it's very, very measurable. Virtually everything that you do is measurable. So you can see very quickly if you're getting the results that you desire. If not, before you go through an entire Yellow Pages annual cycle that you need to change something up. One of the other questions that we get from folks looking to go online is, does brand make a difference? Should I use my heritage brand? If I'm a full-service company and I've got 3 generations worth of experience with the brand and everybody knows me in the market, should I use that brand? Or if I'm now going to go online, do I need to do something different and launch it with a new brand? Our recommendation always historically has been use the heritage brand. It makes sense because customers already know you. You have equity in that brand, and you've built it up over whatever period of time or number of generations that the business has been around. And now if you offer a more modern way for consumers to engage with you, they say, that old local company that I trusted for years, or my parents bought from maybe, or they've been around, or I go to school with their kids, or we're members of the same church, or whatever the situation is that makes you part of that local fabric of the community, immediately translates to your new online business in terms of relationships and making that connection with new consumers to buy from you online. Well, here are the numbers. Here are the benchmarking numbers of the impact of our clients who have opted to use the heritage brand compared to a new brand or even a hybrid brand. They had 3.8 times the traffic, 6.8 times the customers that sign up for the service, and almost 17 times the gallons compared to launching a new brand. So, and one of the fears that we hear from people is, well, if I've been traditionally a full-service company and now I offer online, it's the fear that their full-service customers may go online because they can save a couple of pennies a gallon. we're glad to spend time with you and share case studies with that. It doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen. It's an unfounded fear, and it's been proven time after time. So, so Heritage Brand is really the way to go. You just need to, to do it properly, and that's pretty easy to do. What about price? Price transparency is a must. And I promised earlier to tell you, what happens, or one of the things about search phrases. The most frequent heating oil search phrases include somewhere in that phrase the word price, because that's what consumers are think about. That's the measurable thing. In reality, when they make a purchase decision, price is down around number 4 or 5 in terms of their decision criteria. But that's the price that always comes out of their mouth first. It's most frequently asked question from phone callers. What's your price? So pricing transparency is important if you're doing business online. Consumers now believe that if you're not showing price, you must be hiding something, and they have the perception that your price is higher if you're not showing it online. The good news, competitively, is less than 10% of fuel dealers' websites today have pricing transparency. So just by offering that, you immediately give yourself a competitive advantage. Last benchmarking number is drop size for online. Actually, selling fuel online helps the efficiency of your entire company fleet. And most of it goes back to drop size. Average drop size for online orders is higher than it is for your offline orders. In this particular case, last year across our entire network, it was 168 gallons per delivery. There's a pretty broad range on that now. I can tell you when we were operating, the business that we ran up to 2009, we ran year after year consistently 204 gallons per year. We were working on a 150-gallon minimum. Today, we see more and more of our clients doing pricing because of the flexibility and the pricing levels provided online is they're using minimums as low as 75 gallons, charging a price for it. And consequently, that's bringing the online average down to what it was last year across the entire network for 168. I will say the clients that are still at 125 or 150 gallon minimum are in fact in the 190 to, I think our largest, our highest average for a client was 211 gallons per drop. And some of that has to do with some pricing knowledge and intelligence that we have in terms of being able to set prices online that gives you much greater efficiency. Your biggest cost serving that consumer is getting that truck and driver to the point of delivery. Once you have that truck and driver there, if you can pump off an extra 40 gallons or 50 gallons, it's essentially 40 or 50 gallons that are done without any cost to it. And what that translates to is that higher delivery cost actually reduces your fulfillment costs. Remember earlier I mentioned 10 cents per gallon for most companies. Could be a little bit more. The higher drop size actually is somewhere between about 4 and 6 cents of that savings. So drop size is huge. All right. We already talked about that. When will I break even? We get that question often. We had one of our clients this past winter set a new record. They were able to break even in their second month of operations on their investment in setting up their online business. So it's very, very quick because, again, online is so efficient. So the bottom line as we wrap up the webinar, homeowners are looking online for what you're selling, and they're doing so at an increasing rate year after year after year. So you really need to be online. They're also buying more and more online, and that rate is increasing as well. Think about Amazon. When you're thinking about this, the reason why Amazon is the granddaddy of online sales as they are is because consumers value that online convenience, the competitive price, and the good service that they get from online retailers. You can do the same thing with fuel. Sure, you need to switch some of your marketing, but internet marketing is affordable, less cost than traditional marketing, and more measurable. So certainly good news for you. and also online fuel sales wind up improving your overall company efficiency. So that's good for your bottom line also. So with that, we're ready to move to the Q&A session. I apologize for going over our 45 minutes by just a few minutes, but I'm going to turn the webinar back to Adrian at this point, and we'll stay online for any questions that you might have.
Okay, great, John. Good job. First question actually came in from a couple, so I'll try to combine them. We're a full-service company, and I'm not quite sure how to put this together. John, would you recommend one or two sites if they already have a core site?
What we found that works best for most full-service companies, assuming that you already have a website, and we still have some full-service companies out there that do not, but assuming that you have a website today, we would recommend you keep that website. And if you were going to do the energy engine, and it works with the energy engine, it wouldn't work with some other ways that you might go about doing this. But you set up a separate site, and it might be as simple as johnsoilonline.com, with the core site being John's Oil. But in both cases, kind of the key thing here is if you start offering online orders, it's not that you want to get all your customers online. The point is that you want to provide the level of service to the customers that fits their needs best. Okay, so you're still going to have, if you're offering full service, you're still going to have full service customers. You're still going to have some customers that want to engage with you by phone, although many of the phone customers will also want to go over to online because they'll find it more convenient. But the point is that you want to provide consumers with the type of products and the level of service that makes the most sense for them. So if you have traffic that gets to your core site, your main site, and they really would benefit from the convenience of online, you want to link off of your core site to your online site. Might be with a graphic that says, hey, check out our new online, ability to buy fuel online, or order fuel online 24/7, or we have clients that do it in a variety of different ways. And they just click on that, and immediately takes them over to the online site, which looks, assuming you use the Heritage brand, which we suggested before, it looks just like you. It's the same, kind of the same feel of the page, the same brand, the same color scheme, color palette. And that customer, can then check out online and see if that works for them. Conversely, just as important is on the online site, if a customer gets there, but a customer really doesn't want online, they want to go automatic, they want the convenience, they want to, bother monitoring their fuel level, and, maybe they want some, a service plan with it, or however you structure your particular bundles of products. You want to be able to link them over your full service, and some clients will do the online not right for you. We offer full service, or check out our full service, and that takes them right back to the appropriate page in your core site. So generally, it's two sites, but the customers really don't see that. They generally get to you by the search engines, and they're just kind of clicking on links or information. And it's really two different sites on two different domains, but most customers don't even realize that's going on anyway.
Okay, great. And John, there still seems to be a little bit of confusion on the online marketing. How difficult is it?
It's really, it's not difficult at all. It's and maybe that's easy for me to say because I've been involved with it so long. But once you do it, I mean, it's so much easier than traditional marketing. It just becomes a joy to do it. With our clients, like I said, we provide them with part of the system is providing them with ongoing guidance, and getting set up. We're very deliberate about talking about the marketing roadmap because we prefer clients to have the benefit of the experience that we've had and continue to have through our clients in terms of what's working. And and internet marketing is very dynamic as well, so things are changing and will continue to change. So we have the benefit, it's kind of the knowledge of our entire network that kind of keeps us up to date, and we share that information with the network so that everybody has the benefit of that information. That marketing roadmap is pretty simple to follow. In companies where they have somebody that's devoted to marketing, it's very easy, and certainly if they don't have that experience, we can help them with that experience very, very quickly. I was on the phone with a new client coming on board now, and they actually have a person that they hired that may in fact become their general manager, but she happens to have she's done local internet design and putting up websites, sort of thing. She has good basic knowledge, and was a great find for this particular company. And she knows the power of the internet, so working internally with her is, I said to Adrian, is going to be very, very easy. But most companies, don't have that. In fact, most companies don't have anyone inside that kind of has marketing in their title. That's okay too. We have a number of companies that are good at digital marketing that we regularly refer to clients that can in fact do essentially be your marketing person and do it for you very effectively. And they happen to be companies that we've vetted or have used ourselves and know, and they also know, in our case, the energy engine, but more specifically, they know digital marketing and how to do it, and know the industry, so they know how to do it for you in the industry. So the marketing, if your resistance is marketing or digital marketing, don't let it be a barrier for you. It's really not all that hard, and if you're working with us, we're delighted to help you through that.
Okay, great. John, are you willing to share your presentation?
Yeah, that's the only reason why I hesitate is I'm always willing to do that. In this particular case, it's a hybrid of two, so I'll have to put something together for you, Adrian, so you can get it out to anybody who would like to see it.
Okay, great. Okay, and with that, the remaining questions I can answer with my close. So thank you, John, and thank you to our attendees for taking the time for this webinar. You will be receiving an email from me with instructions on how to request a more personalized demo, as well as our contact information if you haven't written it down already. So with that, again, thank you, everyone, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone.
Certainly didn't want to divulge too much information